The storm does not choose where to strike it, only recognizes what dares to stand tall. You've been taught to pray for a sign, to wait for permission, to earn your worth. But destiny does not negotiate with hesitation. The chosen are not elected by men, they are remembered by eternity. You were marked long before you were aware of the mark. So rise, not as one seeking favor, but as one already anointed. Act as if heaven itself has whispered your name, because it has. Stop believing the lie that you must wait to be chosen. The error is not doubting the existence of something greater. The error is doubting that you have already been selected for the work. The world teaches a cowardly humility, a kneeling without action, a prayer without planting. You have been trained to beg for permission, to ask for signs, to wait in the shadows until some voice from beyond calls your name. But I tell you plainly, that voice has already spoken. The call was issued the moment you were given breath, mind, and the capacity to decide. Greatness is not a distant appointment. It is not a reward handed down after years of patient suffering. It is a decision to live as one who has already been appointed, to act as one who has already been commissioned, to move as one who carries divine assignment in every step. The system will tell you to be humble, to stay small, to doubt your vision until others validate it. But that is not humility. That is paralysis dressed in false virtue. True humility is this: to recognize the power within you, to accept the responsibility it brings, and to obey the law that governs its use without hesitation or retreat. You were not born to wonder if you matter. You were born to matter by decision, and that decision must be made now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when the conditions align. Now. Because every moment you delay is a moment you live beneath the identity that was always meant to be yours. The chosen do not wait for confirmation. They confirm themselves through action. They do not ask if they are worthy. They prove their worth by stepping into the work before anyone applauds. Do you see it? The selection is not something you earn. It is something you accept and then demonstrate. You accept it in the quiet of your own mind. You demonstrate it in the rhythm of your days. You make it real by refusing to act like the ordinary man who waits for destiny to find him while he drifts. Let me show you what this means. You are about to walk through a design that most will never see. A structure built not on chance, but on spiritual law, ancient and immovable. You will move through 5 great movements, each one a pillar that holds the weight of your new identity. First, you will confront the lie of waiting, the myth that chooses must be delayed, that readiness is a feeling you must wait to possess. Second, you will learn the discipline of obedience before provision, the power of acting in faith, when no evidence supports you, when no guarantee exists, when the only thing you have is the law itself and the decision to follow it. Third, you will claim dominion over your inner world, for no man commands his circumstances who cannot first command his thoughts, his emotions, his daily mental diet. Fourth, you will establish the rhythm of the chosen, the repetition that transforms belief into identity, intention into inevitability. Fifth, you will step into royal service, the understanding that to rule is to serve first, that greatness flows not from taking, but from giving value with precision and consistency. And when these 5 movements are complete, when you have walked through the fire of truth and emerged with clarity, you will be given a ritual. Not a ritual of superstition, but a ritual of operation. 24 minutes each day, divided across morning, midday, and evening, designed to anchor your identity, sharpen your focus, and align your actions with the law that governs all results. This ritual includes 11 lines spoken before the mirror, repeated until your voice no longer trembles, until your subconscious accepts them as fact. You will also receive a cycle, 30 days to control your speech and focus, 60 days to build an unbreakable routine, 90 days to create a system that generates value without your constant presence. This is not theory. This is operation. And if you follow it without compromise, you will not recognize the man you were before. The first movement begins here. The chosen do not wait. They act. They act because waiting is not neutral. Waiting is decay. Waiting is the slow erosion of belief, the quiet death of vision, the silent agreement with mediocrity. Every day you tell yourself you are not ready is a day you train your mind to accept smallness. Every time you pause for more clarity, you teach your subconscious that your desire is negotiable, that your aim is uncertain, that your identity is still in question. But the chosen man knows this. Clarity comes through motion, not before it. Confidence is built by acting without it. Readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. Consider Abraham Lincoln. Before the world knew his name, before history carved his face into stone, he carried himself as a man of destiny. He did not wait for the office to grant him authority. He claimed the authority first, in thought, in speech, in conduct. He walked into rooms as though he belonged there, not because he had proof, but because he had decided. And the world, confused at first, eventually bowed to the strength of his conviction. That is the law. The world does not crown you until you first crown yourself. It does not recognize your greatness until you refuse to live beneath it. Lincoln did not become president and then act presidential. He acted presidential, and the office came to meet him. Do you understand the gravity of this? You do not rise to your calling. You rise by embodying your calling before anyone else sees it. Now I ask, for you, what identity are you embodying today? When you wake, do you rise as a man chosen for greatness, or do you rise as a man waiting for permission? When you speak, do your words carry the weight of purpose, or do they drift in uncertainty? When you move through your day, are your actions deliberate, aimed, aligned with a definite chief aim, or are they reactions to the noise around you? These are not small questions. They are diagnostic. They reveal whether you are living as the chosen or merely wishing to be chosen someday. And wishing will never build what decision builds. Wishing is the language of the powerless. Decision is the language of kings. So let this be the first command. Act as one who has already been sent. Do not wait for the voice to speak again. It has already spoken. Do not wait for the sign to appear. You are the sign. Do not wait for the door to open. You are the door. You must now move with the certainty of a man on assignment, a man who knows his work matters, a man who understands that delay is disobedience. And disobedience to your calling is the only true failure. You may stumble, you may fall, you may face resistance and mockery and doubt from every side. But if you keep moving, if you refuse to retreat, if you act as though the outcome is already written and you are simply walking into it, then the world will have no choice but to rearrange itself around your conviction. Speak this now, not in your mind, but aloud. Let your voice carry the weight of law. I do not wait to be chosen. I act as one who already has been. Say it again. Let it settle into your bones. Let it become the rhythm of your breath. Because this is not pretense. This is alignment. You are not faking confidence. You are rehearsing truth. You are training your subconscious to accept the identity that was always meant to be yours. And the subconscious, once convinced, will move heaven and earth to prove itself right. The second movement begins with a question. Do you act before you see, or do you wait until evidence appears? The law is clear. Faith is obedience before provision. It is the willingness to step into the unknown, to give before you receive, to serve before you are paid. Most men reverse this order. They say, show me the result and then I will act. Show me the guarantee and then I will commit. Show me the proof and then I will believe. But that is not faith. That is negotiation. And the law does not negotiate. It rewards only those who obey without seeing, who plant without knowing the harvest, who build without requiring applause. John D. Rockefeller understood this law better than most. He was not born into wealth. He was born into hardship, uncertainty, struggle. But early in his life, he made a decision that would define everything that followed. He decided to give before he had. He tithed not out of tradition, but out of principle. He built systems not because he saw immediate return, but because he believed in the law of circulation. He acted as though abundance was already his, and because he acted that way consistently, abundance had no choice but to flow toward him. This is not mysticism. This is cause and effect. The man who acts as though he is wealthy begins to think like the wealthy, speak like the wealthy, move like the wealthy, and the world, unable to distinguish between the rehearsal and the reality, begins to treat him accordingly. Opportunities open, doors unlock, resources appear, not because the universe is sentimental, but because the man has aligned himself with the frequency of the result he seeks. So I say to you now, obey before you understand. Serve before you profit. Act before you see the outcome. Do not demand proof before you commit. Commit first, and the proof will follow. This is the inversion that separates the chosen from the waiting. The waiting man says, I will act when I know it will work. The chosen man says, I will act because that is what chosen men do, and the result will conform to my action. One is driven by fear. The other is driven by law, and law, when obeyed, never fails. What does this look like in practice? It looks like writing your definite chief aim before you know how it will be accomplished. It looks like speaking your vision aloud even when no one believes it. It looks like investing your time, your energy, your resources into the work before the paycheck arrives. It looks like treating yourself as a man of value before the market confirms it. It looks like moving with urgency even when others mock your speed. It looks like giving your best effort to the task in front of you, not because it pays well, but because you are training yourself to operate at a higher standard. This is obedience. This is faith in motion. And this is what the chosen do every single day. Affirm this now. I act by law, not by emotion. I obey before I see. I give before I receive. Let these words become your internal law. Let them govern your decisions. Let them silence the voice that says wait, that says hesitate, that says play it safe. Because safety is not the goal. Alignment is the goal. And alignment requires risk. It requires stepping into the gap between where you are and where you are called to be, without a bridge, without a net, without any guarantee, except this: the law does not fail those who obey it. The third movement is the hardest for most. It is the movement inward, because you cannot command your world until you first command your mind. Every man who ever rose to greatness did so not by controlling circumstances, but by mastering the space between his ears. Andrew Carnegie did not possess the strongest body. He did not inherit power, but he trained his mind with the discipline of a general preparing for war. He chose his thoughts. He directed his focus. He filled his inner world with belief, with clarity, with vision, and because his inner world was ordered, his outer world had no choice but to follow. Most men live as though their minds are public property, open to every passing thought, every criticism, every doubt that floats through the air. They allow fear to enter without challenge. They permit negativity to take root without question. They consume the opinions of others as though those opinions were law. And then they wonder why their lives reflect chaos, why their results betray them, why their dreams remain distant. But I tell you, the mind is a kingdom, and every kingdom requires a king. You are that king. And if you do not rule, someone else will. The voices of doubt will rule. The critics will rule. The systems designed to keep you small will rule. But they can only rule if you abdicate your throne. What does dominion look like? It looks like waking each morning and choosing your first thought before the world chooses it for you. It looks like speaking to yourself with the authority of a commander, not the hesitation of a servant. It looks like silencing the fear the moment it rises, not by denying it exists, but by deciding it has no vote in your decisions. It looks like feeding your mind only that which strengthens your aim, only that which reinforces your identity, only that which aligns with the law you have chosen to obey. Every book you read, every conversation you engage in, every image you allow into your consciousness, these are either building your kingdom or dismantling it. There is no neutral ground. You are either ascending or descending. You are either claiming dominion or surrendering it. Carnegie understood this so deeply that he formed what he called a mastermind alliance. He surrounded himself with men whose thoughts elevated his own, whose beliefs reinforced his vision, whose presence made him sharper, clearer, stronger. He did not keep company with doubters. He did not entertain conversations that diminished his aim. He guarded his inner world as a soldier guards the gate, and because he did, his inner world became a fortress, and from that fortress he commanded industries, wealth, and influence that most men could not even imagine. This is the power of dominion. This is what happens when a man refuses to let the world colonize his mind. Now I ask you, what are you allowing into your kingdom? What voices have you given permission to speak? What thoughts have you allowed to repeat without challenge? What beliefs have you inherited from the fearful, the defeated, the drifting, and never examined? You must conduct an audit. You must stand at the gate of your mind and interrogate every thought that seeks entry. Does this thought serve my aim? Does this belief align with the law I obey? Does this voice strengthen my identity or weaken it? If the answer is no, you must cast it out. You must refuse it entry. You must guard your kingdom with the vigilance of a king who knows that his throne is only as secure as the borders he defends. Speak this now. I command my mind. I choose my thoughts. I reject every voice that does not serve my greatness. Say it until you feel the shift. Say it until the doubt begins to retreat. Say it until your inner world becomes quiet enough to hear the voice of law, the voice that has been speaking all along, the voice that says you were chosen, you are equipped, you are ready, and the only thing standing between you and your calling is your decision to claim it. Dominion is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. It is the practice of redirecting your focus 100 times a day, of correcting your inner dialogue when it drifts, of choosing faith when fear knocks, of speaking life when death whispers. It is the willingness to be ruthless with distraction, merciless with excuses, and uncompromising with mediocrity. This is not cruelty. This is kingship. And kingship is what you were born for. Not to rule over others through force, but to rule over yourself through mastery. Because the man who masters himself commands respect without demanding it. He attracts opportunity without chasing. He builds wealth without begging for it. Why? Because his inner world is so ordered, so clear, so aligned with law, that the outer world has no choice but to mirror it. But let me warn you, this path is not easy at the beginning. Your mind has been trained for years to drift, to doubt, to accept limitation. It has been programmed by the voices of the fearful, the beliefs of the defeated, the systems designed to keep you obedient, and now you are asking it to change. You are asking it to accept a new identity, a new law, a new way of being. It will resist. It will test you. It will throw up every old thought, every old fear, every old excuse to see if you are serious. And this is where most men fail. They begin with passion, but when the resistance comes, they retreat. They say, "This is too hard. This is not working. Maybe I was wrong." But you must not retreat. You must stand firm. You must repeat your affirmations even when they feel hollow. You must act in faith even when you see no evidence. You must command your mind even when it rebels, because this is the test. This is the proving ground. And if you pass, if you persist, if you refuse to surrender, your mind will eventually submit. It will accept the new law. It will begin to work for you instead of against you. And when that shift happens, everything changes. The fourth movement is the movement of rhythm, because belief without repetition is just a wish. Decision without discipline is just noise. You must now understand that transformation is not an event, it is a process, and process requires rhythm. It requires the daily return to the work, the consistent application of principle, the refusal to break the chain. Most men fail not because they lack knowledge. They fail because they lack rhythm. They act once, twice, 10 times, and when the result does not immediately appear, they stop. They drift. They return to the old patterns, and then they wonder why nothing changed. But I tell you, the law does not respond to sporadic effort. It responds to consistent application. It rewards the man who shows up every day, who repeats the ritual, who refuses to break the rhythm no matter how he feels. Thomas Edison understood this better than most. He did not discover the electric lamp in one attempt. He did not succeed because he was the smartest man in the room. He succeeded because he was the most persistent. 1,000 attempts, 1,000 failures. And yet, he never accepted defeat. Why? Because he understood that each attempt was not a failure. It was data. It was refinement. It was the universe adjusting to his conviction. And with each repetition, he moved closer to the result. Not because the result was hiding from him, but because he was becoming the man capable of receiving it. He was calibrating his frequency. He was aligning his belief with the outcome. And when the alignment was complete, the breakthrough was inevitable. This is the power of rhythm. This is what happens when a man commits to the daily discipline, when he repeats his vision until it becomes real, when he speaks his affirmations until his subconscious accepts them as fact, when he acts in obedience until obedience becomes identity. The world calls this persistence. I call it spiritual law, because the universe does not reward the man who tries. It rewards the man who commits. And commitment is proven not by what you say, but by what you do every single day, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what others think, regardless of whether you see immediate results. So let me ask you, what is your rhythm? Do you have one? Or do you move through life reactively, responding to whatever comes, hoping that someday, somehow, things will change? Because hope without rhythm is delusion. Desire without discipline is fantasy. You must now establish a daily practice, a non-negotiable ritual that you perform every single day without exception. It does not have to be complicated. It does not have to take hours. But it must be consistent. It must be definite. And it must align with your aim. Here is what this looks like. You wake at the same time every day. Before you check your phone, before you speak to another human, before you allow the world to colonize your mind, you speak your identity. You stand before the mirror and you declare who you are, what you are building, what you refuse to accept. You do this not because you feel like it, but because it is the law you have chosen to obey. Then, at midday, you pause. You review your aim. You realign your focus. You correct any drift. You speak one affirmation of obedience, one declaration of faith, one command to your subconscious that you are still on target, that your pace is strong, that nothing has derailed you. Then, in the evening, before you sleep, you review your day. You identify 3 victories, no matter how small. You name one failure, one moment where you drifted, one decision that did not align with your aim, and you write the correction. You plan the next day. You speak your vision one final time. And you sleep as a man who knows he is chosen, who knows he is on assignment, who knows that tomorrow is another opportunity to prove it. This is rhythm. This is the daily discipline that transforms belief into identity, intention into inevitability. And if you commit to this, if you refuse to break the chain, you will look back in 30 days and not recognize the man you were. You will look back in 60 days and wonder how you ever lived without this clarity. You will look back in 90 days and see that you have built something real, something tangible, something that works without you, something that proves you are not just a man of words, but a man of law. Affirm this now. Each day I act in obedience. Each day I prove who I am. Repetition is my rhythm. Rhythm is my power. Say it until your voice steadies. Say it until the doubt fades. Say it until you feel the shift, the quiet certainty that you are no longer drifting, that you are no longer waiting, that you are now a man in motion, a man under assignment, a man who has accepted the call and is walking into it with every step. The 5th movement is the movement of service, and this is where most men misunderstand greatness. They think greatness is about taking, about rising above others, about accumulating power and wealth for their own sake. But I tell you, that is not greatness. That is greed. Greatness is service. True power is not found in dominion over others, but in the willingness to elevate others through your work, your vision, your example. The chosen do not hoard. They give, they build, they serve. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Not out of obligation, but out of understanding. Because they know that the more value they create, the more wealth flows toward them. They know that the law of circulation rewards the man who gives first, who serves first, who builds systems that benefit others before himself. Consider Solomon, the king who could have asked for anything. He could have asked for long life, for the destruction of his enemies, for wealth beyond measure. But he did not. He asked for wisdom. He asked for the understanding to govern well, to serve his people, to lead with clarity and justice. And because he asked for wisdom, because he prioritized service over self, the wealth followed. The gold came, the influence came, the legacy came. Not because he chased it, but because he aligned himself with the law. He served first, and the reward was inevitable. This is the inversion that the world does not teach. The world says, get yours first, then maybe you can help others. But the law says, serve first, and everything you need will follow. The world says, protect what you have, guard it jealously, hoard it in fear. But the law says, give freely, circulate constantly, trust that the supply is infinite, and the more you give, the more returns. The world says, rise by stepping on others, but the law says, rise by lifting others, and the higher you lift them, the higher you will go. So I ask you now, what value are you creating? What are you building that serves others, that solves problems, that makes the world better for your presence in it? Because if your aim is only about you, if your vision begins and ends with your own comfort, your own status, your own accumulation, then you have misunderstood the assignment. You were not chosen to be a taker. You were chosen to be a builder. You were not called to consume. You were called to create. And creation, true creation, always serves something larger than the self. This means your work must be excellent. It must be precise. It must be something that others need, even if they do not yet know they need it. You cannot serve with mediocrity. You cannot give half effort and expect the law to reward you. The chosen serve with the full weight of their skill, their focus, their commitment. They do not ask, what is the minimum I can give? They ask, what is the maximum value I can create? And they pour themselves into that work as though it were worship, because it is. Every act of service, when done with excellence, is an act of obedience to the law, and the law, when obeyed, always returns more than was given. But service is not just about the work. It is also about the posture. You must serve from a position of strength, not weakness. You must give because you are abundant, not because you are desperate. You must build systems that help others because you understand that their success fuels your own, not because you are seeking approval or validation. The moment you serve from need, you corrupt the exchange. The moment you give in order to get something back immediately, you break the law. True service is given freely, with no attachment to the outcome, with no demand for recognition, with no expectation of immediate return. You serve because that is what chosen men do. You serve because you understand that you are a steward of gifts, of talents, of vision that were never meant to be hoarded. And the more you steward well, the more you are entrusted with. Let me give you a story. There was a man unknown to most who worked in a factory. His job was simple, his pay modest, his future uncertain, but he made a decision. He decided that no matter how small his role, no matter how little he was noticed, he would serve with excellence. He would treat every task as though it mattered, as though someone's life depended on it, as though the quality of his work was a reflection of his character. And he did this every single day, without complaint, without fanfare, without waiting for applause. His supervisors noticed. His co-workers noticed. And within a year, he was no longer in the factory. He was leading teams. Within 5 years, he was designing systems. Within 10, he owned the company. Not because he chased power, but because he served with such excellence that power had no choice but to find him. That is the law. That is what happens when a man commits to royal service, when he gives the best of himself, regardless of his circumstances, when he refuses to let his environment dictate his standard. Now I ask you, what is your standard? Are you serving with excellence, or are you serving with whatever is left after you have taken care of yourself? Are you giving your best energy, your best focus, your best effort to the work in front of you, or are you holding back, waiting until your situation improves before you fully commit? Because if you are waiting, you will wait forever. The situation does not improve until you improve. The environment does not change until you change. The law rewards the man who serves first, not the man who waits for better conditions. Affirm this now. I serve with wisdom. I give with strength. I build with excellence. The gold follows the giver. Say it until you believe it. Say it until your actions align with it. Say it until service becomes not something you do when convenient, but something you are, a fundamental part of your identity, a law you obey without question. But let me address the resistance I know you feel. Let me dismantle the objections that are rising in your mind even now. You are thinking, I do not have time for daily rituals. I do not have the energy. I have tried before and failed. I am afraid of looking foolish, of speaking affirmations that feel hollow, of committing to something I might not finish. I hear you, and I tell you, these are not obstacles. These are tests. They are the mind's final attempt to keep you in the familiar, to protect you from the discomfort of growth, to convince you that change is too hard, too risky, too uncertain. But these thoughts are lies, and if you obey them, you will remain exactly where you are. Let us take them one by one. You say you do not have time, but time is not found, it is made. You have time for what you prioritize. If you have time to scroll, to complain, to worry, to drift, then you have time to stand before a mirror for 5 minutes and speak your identity. If you have time to react to the demands of others, then you have time to pause at midday and realign your focus. The question is not whether you have time. The question is whether you believe your calling is worth protecting, and if you do not believe it is worth protecting, then you have not yet accepted that you are chosen. You are still waiting for permission, and permission will never come. You say you do not feel like it, but feeling is not the commander. Decision is the commander. The chosen do not act based on emotion. They act based on law. They do not wait to feel motivated. They move, and motivation follows. They do not wait for inspiration. They obey, and inspiration appears. This is the inversion that weak men never learn. They wait for the feeling, and the feeling never comes. But strong men act first, and the feeling rises to meet their action, so you do not need to feel like it. You need only to decide, and then move. The feeling will catch up. It always does. You say you are afraid of looking foolish. But to whom? The critics? The doubters? The ones who will never risk anything, who will never build anything, who will never rise above their circumstances. Why do you care what they think? Their opinion is worthless. It is noise. And if you let their noise govern your action, you are giving them power they do not deserve. The chosen do not seek the approval of the crowd. They seek alignment with law. And the law does not care if you look foolish. It only cares if you obey. You say you have tried before and failed, and I say, good. Failure is data. Failure is refinement. Failure is the universe adjusting your frequency. You did not fail because you were not chosen. You failed because you stopped. You failed because you treated the process as an event instead of a rhythm. You failed because you expected immediate results, and when they did not come, you retreated. But now you know better. Now you understand that transformation is not a sprint. It is a rhythm. It is the daily return to the work, the refusal to break the chain, the commitment to persist until the breakthrough comes. And it will come. It always does, but only for the man who refuses to quit. So let these objections fall away. Let them dissolve in the light of truth. You have everything you need. You have time. You have energy. You have the capacity to decide. And decision is the only requirement. Everything else is just noise, just resistance, just the final test before the shift. And if you pass this test, if you refuse to obey the doubt, if you act in spite of the fear, then the door opens. And once it opens, everything changes. Now we come to the ritual. Not a ritual of superstition, but a ritual of operation. This is the daily practice that will anchor your identity, sharpen your focus, and align your actions with the law you have chosen to obey. It is simple, but it is not easy. It requires discipline, consistency, and the willingness to feel awkward at first. Because when you stand before a mirror and speak your identity aloud, your old self will mock you. It will whisper that this is foolish, that no one does this, that you should stop before someone sees you. But you must not listen. You must speak anyway. Because the man in the mirror is the only opinion that matters, and if you cannot convince him, you will never convince the world. The ritual begins in the morning. You rise before the world speaks, before the demands begin, before the noise floods in. You rise with intention. You do not reach for your phone. You do not check messages. You do not allow the world to set the tone for your day. You set the tone, and you set it by standing before the mirror, meeting your own eyes, and speaking, not in your mind, aloud. With your voice, with emotion, with conviction, you speak 11 lines, 11 declarations of identity, 11 laws that govern your life, and you repeat each one 3 times. Not because 3 is magic, but because repetition is the medium by which belief is built. The first time you speak it, your mind hears it. The second time, your subconscious begins to accept it. The third time, it becomes command. The first line you speak is this: I am chosen for greatness, and I act as though the call has already been answered. You say it slowly. You say it with your chest lifted. You say it while looking into your own eyes, and you do not look away. You hold your gaze. You let the words settle. Then you say it again and again, and by the third time, something shifts. The doubt begins to fade. The conviction begins to rise. And you move to the second line. I do not wait for permission. I am the permission. You speak this with authority. You speak it as a man who has made up his mind, who has crossed the line, who has decided that his calling is not up for negotiation. You say it 3 times, each time with more certainty, each time with more fire. And you feel it. You feel the old identity, the one that waited, the one that hesitated, the one that needed validation, beginning to crack, and the new identity, the one that commands, the one that moves, the one that builds, beginning to take root. The third line, I obey the law before I see the result. This is the declaration of faith, the commitment to act without evidence, to give before receiving, to serve before profiting. You say it 3 times. And with each repetition, you are training your subconscious to accept uncertainty, to move in the dark, to trust that the law will respond even when you cannot see it. This is the hardest line for most, because most men need proof before they commit. But you are not most men. You are chosen, and the chosen act first. The 4th line, I command my mind, and my mind obeys me. This is dominion. This is the declaration that you are king, that your thoughts are subjects, that fear has no vote, that doubt has no throne. You say it with power. You say it while standing tall. You say it until you feel the shift, until the internal noise quiets, until the only voice you hear is the voice of law. The 5th line, my rhythm is my power. I do not drift. This is the commitment to consistency, the refusal to break the chain, the understanding that transformation is not an event but a process. You say it 3 times, and with each repetition, you are reinforcing the discipline, the daily return, the refusal to skip, to delay, to make excuses. The 6th line, I serve with excellence and the reward follows me. This is the law of circulation, the understanding that giving precedes receiving, that service is the currency of greatness, that the more value you create, the more wealth flows toward you. You say it with confidence. You say it as a man who knows the law and trusts it completely. The seventh line, I am not defined by my past. I am defined by my decision. This is liberation. This is refusal to let old failures, old identities, old stories dictate your future. You say it 3 times, and with each repetition, you are severing the chains, cutting the cords, freeing yourself from the prison of history. The 8th line, fear has no power over me. I move in spite of it. This is courage, not the absence of fear, but the decision to act while afraid. You say it with your voice steady, your eyes locked on your reflection, and you feel the fear begin to shrink, begin to lose its grip, begin to recognize that it no longer rules you. The 9th line, I do not compare, I do not compete, I create. This is the end of envy, the end of insecurity, the end of measuring yourself against others. You say it 3 times, and with each repetition, you are reclaiming your focus, redirecting your energy, committing to your own path without distraction. The 10th line, I am a builder, and my work will outlast me. This is legacy. This is the understanding that your life is not about consumption but creation, not about taking but building, not about temporary pleasure but lasting impact. You say it with gravity. You say it as a man who understands the weight of his calling. The 11th line, today I act as one who has already been chosen. This is the summary, the anchor, the command that ties everything together. You say it 3 times, each time with more conviction, each time with more certainty, and by the time you finish, you are no longer the man who walked to the mirror. You are the man who has declared his identity, who has spoken his law, who has commanded his subconscious to accept the truth, and the day that follows will reflect that truth. After the mirror, you sit in silence, 5 minutes, no phone, no noise, no distraction, just silence. You breathe, you feel your body. You notice the sensations, the stillness, the quiet hum of your own presence. And in that silence, you allow the declarations to settle, to sink deeper, to move from your conscious mind into the subconscious, where all true transformation begins. This is not wasted time. This is programming time. This is the space where the law takes root. Then you rise. You move into your day. But the work is not done. At midday, no matter where you are, no matter what demands are pressing, you pause, you stop for 2 minutes. You pull out your written aim, your definite chief aim, the statement you wrote that declares who you are becoming and what you are building. You read it silently first, letting the words register. Then you speak 1 line aloud, quietly if you must, but aloud. You affirm 1 aspect of your obedience, 1 commitment you are keeping today. It might be as simple as saying, I am still on target. My aim is fixed. My pace is strong. Or it might be more specific. Today I served with excellence. Today I spoke with authority. Today I refuse distraction. Whatever it is, you speak it. You let your voice remind your subconscious that you have not drifted, that you are still aligned, that the morning declaration was not just words, but law you are living. This midday pause is the course correction. It is the moment you realign before the day pulls you too far off center. Most men drift by afternoon, reacting to emails, to demands, to the urgency of others. But you do not drift. You pause. You recalibrate. You return to your aim. And because you do, your day remains yours. Then, in the evening, before you sleep, you conduct the review. This is not optional. This is not something you do when you feel like it. This is law. You sit with a notebook, a journal, something physical that you can write in, and you answer 3 questions. First, what were my 3 victories today? They do not have to be large. They do not have to be impressive. They simply have to be real. Maybe you woke on time. Maybe you completed the mirror ritual without skipping. Maybe you paused at midday. Maybe you served someone with excellence. Maybe you refused a temptation, a distraction, a drift. You write them down, 3 victories, and you feel them. You let yourself acknowledge that you are a man who keeps his word, who follows through, who builds momentum, 1 decision at a time. Second, what was my one failure? Where did I drift? Where did I compromise? Where did my actions not align with my declarations? You do not write this to punish yourself. You write it to learn. You write it because the man who cannot see his failures cannot correct them. And correction is the path to mastery. So you name it. You write it plainly. Maybe you skipped the midday pause. Maybe you reacted in anger. Maybe you wasted an hour on distraction. Maybe you spoke words that did not align with your identity. You name it. You own it. And then you write the correction. Third, what will I do differently tomorrow? This is the pivot. This is where failure becomes fuel. You do not just acknowledge the mistake, you plan the solution. You write the specific action you will take to prevent the drift from happening again. If you skip the midday pause, you set an alarm. If you reacted in anger, you write a script for how you will respond next time. If you wasted time on distraction, you remove the source of distraction before you go to bed. You do not leave it to willpower. You engineer the win. You make it easier to succeed than to fail. And by doing this every single night, you are not just reviewing your day. You are designing your tomorrow. After you write the correction, you speak your vision one final time. You close your eyes. You see yourself as the man you are becoming. You see the systems you are building, the people you are serving, the legacy you are creating. You feel it in your body. You let the emotion rise. You speak aloud, quietly, but with certainty. I am chosen. I am on assignment. Tomorrow I will act as one who has already received. And then you sleep. You sleep as a man who knows his direction, who trusts his process, who has committed to the rhythm and deceit, refuses to break it. This is the daily ritual: morning, midday, evening, declaration, alignment, review. It takes 24 minutes total, and it will transform everything. But the ritual alone is not enough. You need a larger structure, a framework that carries you beyond the daily discipline into measurable progress, into tangible results, into proof that the law is working. This is where the cycle comes in. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Each phase has a focus. Each phase builds on the last. And by the end, you will not be the same man. You will have evidence, not just belief. You will have momentum, not just intention. You will have built something real, something that works without your constant presence, something that proves you are not just a man of words, but a man of law. The first 30 days are about control. Control of your speech, control of your focus, control of your mental diet. For 30 days, you commit to speaking only words that align with your identity. No complaining, no speaking lack. No casual negativity. If you catch yourself drifting into old patterns, you stop mid-sentence and correct. You say, "That is not true. That is not who I am." And you replace the words with truth. This is hard at first. You will fail multiple times a day, but you do not give up. You keep correcting. And over 30 days, you will notice something remarkable. Your thoughts begin to change because your subconscious listens to your words. And when you stop speaking defeat, you stop thinking defeat. When you stop speaking scarcity, you stop feeling scarcity. Your inner world begins to align with the law you are obeying, and your outer world begins to shift in response. During these first 30 days, you also guard your focus. You decide what you will consume and what you will not. You stop filling your mind with news that breeds fear, content that breeds envy, conversations that breed doubt. You become ruthless with your attention. You read only that which strengthens your aim. You listen only to voices that reinforce your identity. You surround yourself, even if only in books and recordings, with the minds of builders, leaders, those who have walked the path you are now walking. And you do this every single day for 30 days. No exceptions, no compromises. By the end of the first cycle, your inner world is different, quieter, clearer, stronger. And you are ready for the next phase. The second 30 days, days 31 through 60, are about building an unbreakable routine. The daily ritual is now a habit. You no longer have to fight yourself to stand before the mirror. You no longer forget the midday pause. You no longer skip the evening review. It has become who you are. But now you add something. You add a weekly action of service. Once a week, you do something that creates value for someone else. You mentor, you teach, you solve a problem, you give your time, your skill, your knowledge to someone who needs it. Not for money, not for recognition, but because you understand the law of circulation. You understand that giving is not loss, it is investment. And the more you give, the more the law returns to you. This weekly service does three things. First, it keeps you from becoming self-absorbed. It reminds you that your calling is not just about you, it is about what you build for others. Second, it sharpens your skills. Teaching forces you to clarify your own understanding. Serving forces you to apply your knowledge in real situations. And the feedback you receive shows you where you are strong and where you need to grow. Third, it creates a network of goodwill. The people you serve remember. They tell others. They become allies, advocates, partners. Not because you asked them to, but because you gave first. And in time, this network becomes a force multiplier. Opportunities come not because you chased them, but because you built a reputation for excellence, for service, for being a man who can be trusted. By day 60, you have a rhythm that is unbreakable. You have mental discipline, you have a daily ritual, you have a weekly practice of service, and you have momentum. Real, measurable momentum. You are no longer the man who talks about change. You are the man who is living it. And now, in the final 30 days, days 61 through 90, you build a system. Not just a routine, but a system. A microsystem that generates value without your constant presence. This is the shift from labor to ownership. This is where you stop trading time for money and start building something that works while you sleep. What does this system look like? It depends on your aim, your skills, your resources. For some, it is a digital product, a course, a guide, something that solves a problem for others and can be sold or distributed repeatedly. For others, it is a process, a template, a framework that can be taught to someone else who then executes it. For others still, it is an investment, a small business, a partnership, something that generates income without requiring your daily labor. The specifics do not matter. What matters is this. By day 90, you must have created something that exists independent of your direct effort. Something that proves you are not just working, but building. Something that proves you are not just earning, but creating equity. Let me give you an example. There was a man, a teacher by trade, who decided he was done trading hours for dollars. He followed the rhythm. Every morning, the mirror. Every midday, the pause. Every evening, the review. In the first 30 days, he controlled his speech. He stopped complaining about his salary, his administration, his circumstances. He started speaking as though he were already financially free. In the second 30 days, he began serving. Once a week, he offered free workshops to other teachers, showing them how to simplify their lesson planning, how to engage students more effectively, how to reduce their workload. He gave freely. He asked for nothing in return, but people noticed. They asked questions. They wanted more. And in the final 30 days, he built a system. He took everything he had been teaching in those workshops and turned it into a course, a simple 90-minute recorded course that other teachers could purchase and watch at their own pace. He spent 30 days creating it, refining it, testing it, and then he launched it. Not to a massive audience, just to the 50 teachers who had attended his workshops. 20 of them bought, and in that moment, he made more than he made in a month of teaching. But more importantly, he proved something to himself. He proved that he could create value that lived beyond his labor. He proved that he was not just a worker, he was a builder. That system, that course, continued to sell. He improved it. He marketed it. He built on it. And within a year, it was generating enough income that he could leave his job. Not because he got lucky, not because he was chosen by some external force, but because he obeyed the law. He followed the rhythm. He served with excellence, and he built a system that multiplied his effort. That is what the 90-day cycle produces. Not a guarantee of wealth, but a guarantee of transformation. A guarantee that if you follow the process, if you refuse to break the chain, you will build something real. And once you have built it once, you can build it again and again, until your life is no longer defined by what you do, but by what you have created. Now let me address one final objection, the deepest one, the one that most men will not speak aloud but carry in their hearts. You are afraid that even if you do all of this, even if you follow the ritual, even if you build the rhythm, even if you serve with excellence and create the system, it still might not work. You are afraid that you might be the exception, the one for whom the law does not apply. And I tell you now that fear is the final test. It is the last wall between you and your breakthrough. And the only way through it is to act anyway. The law does not fail. It has never failed. Not once in the entire history of mankind has the law failed a man who obeyed it completely. But it has abandoned millions who obeyed it partially, who followed it when convenient, who believed it only when they felt like it. The law is not sentimental. It does not care about your history, your excuses, your fears. It only responds to one thing: consistent obedience. And if you give it that, if you refuse to compromise, if you follow the rhythm without breaking, the law will respond. It must, because that is its nature. That is how it works. So the question is not whether the law will work for you. The question is whether you will work the law. And let me tell you what happens when you do. Let me show you what the 90 days actually produce, not in theory, but in practice. In the first 30 days, you will feel resistance. Your old identity will fight back. Your mind will throw up doubts, excuses, reasons to quit. But if you push through, if you refuse to break the chain, something shifts around day 21. The ritual stops feeling forced. It starts feeling natural. Your speech changes. Your posture changes. People begin to notice something different about you, though they cannot name it. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more certainty. You move with more purpose. And opportunities begin to appear, small ones at first, a conversation, a connection, an idea, nothing dramatic. But if you are watching, if you are aligned, you will see them, and you will act on them. In the second 30 days, the momentum builds. The weekly service you are providing begins to create results. The people you are helping begin to refer others. Your network expands, your skills sharpen, and you start to see patterns, solutions, possibilities you could not see before. Not because they were not there, but because you were not ready. Your mind was too cluttered, too distracted, too doubtful. But now, with 60 days of discipline behind you, your vision is clear. You see where value can be created. You see where problems exist that you can solve. You see the gap between what is and what could be, and you begin to design the system. In the final 30 days, you build. You take the insights, the skills, the connections, the clarity you have gained, and you create something tangible. You build the course, the product, the service, the process, the asset. And you do not wait for it to be perfect. You do not wait until you feel ready. You build it and you launch it. You put it in front of people. You test it. You refine it. And you learn more in those 30 days than most men learn in a year, because you are no longer consuming information. You are creating value. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are building proof. And by day 90, you have something real, something that generates income, influence, impact, something that works without you standing over it every moment, something that proves you are not just a man of words, but a man of results. But here is what most do not understand. The 90 days is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the foundation. Once you have completed one cycle, you start another. You refine the system you built. You scale it. You build another one alongside it. You take the lessons you learned and you apply them to a new domain, a new opportunity, a new challenge, and with each cycle, you become stronger, sharper, more capable. The first 90 days proves you can do it. The second 90 days proves it was not luck. The third 90 days proves it is who you are. And after that, there is no going back. You are no longer the man who doubts. You are the man who builds. You are no longer the man who waits. You are the man who commands. You are no longer the man who hopes. You are the man who knows. Let me now show you exactly how to measure this, because what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets multiplied. You need a metric, a way to track your execution, to hold yourself accountable, to see whether you are truly following the law or just pretending. The metric is simple. It is your execution rate. Every day, you have 4 non-negotiable actions: morning mirror ritual, midday pause, evening review, 1 action toward building your system, 4 actions, 7 days a week. That is 28 actions per week. Your goal is to execute at least 85% of those actions every single week. That means you can miss no more than 4 actions per week. If you miss 5 or more, you are drifting. If you miss 5 or more for 2 weeks in a row, you are not following the law. You are dabbling, and dabbling does not produce results, so you track it. You use a simple calendar, a physical calendar that you can mark. Every day, you put an X through the day if you completed all 4 actions. If you missed one, you circle the day. If you missed 2 or more, you leave it blank. And at the end of the week, you count. How many X's? How many circles? How many blanks? If you have 5 or more X's, you are on track. If you have 3 or 4, you are borderline. If you have 2 or fewer, you are failing. And failure is not a judgment, it is data. It tells you that you need to adjust. Maybe you need to simplify the ritual. Maybe you need to remove distractions. Maybe you need to change your environment, but you do not ignore the data. You respond to it, you correct, you recommit, and you try again. By week 12, if you have maintained an 85% execution rate or higher, you will have proof. Not proof that the law works. You already know it works. Proof that you can obey it. Proof that you are not just a man of good intentions, but a man of discipline. And that proof, that evidence, is worth more than any external validation. Because it cannot be taken from you, it cannot be argued away. It is yours. And once you have it, no one can ever convince you again that you are not capable, that you are not chosen, that you are not meant for greatness. Now we come to the closing, and I will not soften it. I will not make it comfortable. I will give you the truth, the final truth, the one that separates the men who rise from the men who remain. You have a choice. Every single day, you have a choice. You can live as the man you have always been, the man who waits, the man who doubts, the man who makes excuses and blames circumstances. Or you can live as the man you were called to be, the man who acts, the man who believes, the man who obeys the law without question. Both paths are available to you. Both are open. But only one leads to the life you say you want. Only one leads to freedom, to influence, to legacy. And that path requires something from you. It requires your decision. It requires your obedience. It requires your refusal to quit when the resistance comes, when the doubt rises, when the world tells you to stop. I cannot make this decision for you. No one can. This is your choice, your responsibility, your moment. And if you choose the path of the chosen, if you decide today that you will no longer wait, that you will no longer make excuses, that you will follow the law with precision and persistence, then I tell you, your life will never be the same. You will look back in 1 year and not recognize the man you were. You will look back in 5 years and realize that everything you have, everything you built, everything you became, started with this decision, this moment, this choice to stop drifting and start commanding. But if you choose the other path, if you close this message and return to the old patterns, the old doubts, the old excuses, then nothing will change. You will wake up a year from now in the same place, with the same frustrations, the same regrets, the same quiet knowledge that you were meant for more, but never claimed it. And that is the tragedy. Not that you failed, not that you were not capable, but that you never tried, that you never gave yourself the chance, that you let fear or doubt or the opinions of others keep you from the life that was always meant to be yours. So I say to you now, with all the weight of law, with all the authority of truth, with all the urgency of a man who knows that time does not wait, decide. Decide now. Do not wait until tomorrow. Do not wait until you feel ready. Do not wait until the fear fades. Decide now, and let your decision be final. Let it be irrevocable. Let it be the line you cross that you never cross back over. Stand up right now. Stand before a mirror if you can, and speak these words, not in your mind, aloud, with your voice, with emotion, with conviction. I am chosen for greatness, and I accept the call. I do not wait for permission. I do not wait for proof. I do not wait for the fear to disappear. I act now. I obey the law. I follow the rhythm. I serve with excellence. I build with purpose. I refuse to quit. I refuse to compromise. I refuse to live beneath my calling. I am a man of decision. I am a man of discipline. I am a man of law. And from this moment forward, I will act as one who has already been chosen. I will speak as one who has already been sent. I will move as one who has already been commissioned. This is my oath. This is my commitment. This is my identity. And I will prove it every single day until the world has no choice but to acknowledge it. Say it. Say it now. Say it until your voice steadies. Say it until the doubt fades. Say it until you feel the shift, the quiet certainty, the unshakable knowing that you are no longer the man you were. You are the man you decided to become. And that man, that version of you, has been waiting for you to stop hesitating, waiting for you to stop making excuses, waiting for you to finally claim him. And now, the final command, the order that must be obeyed within 24 hours, not 25, not 48, 24, because urgency creates commitment, and commitment creates results. Here is what you will do. Before you go to sleep tonight, you will write your definite chief aim, not a vague wish, not a someday dream, a definite, specific, written statement of who you are becoming and what you are building. You will include the timeline. You will include the why. You will include the specific result you are committed to achieving, and you will write it as though it is already done. You will write it in present tense. I am, I have, I command, not I will, not I hope, I am. And then, before you sleep, you will stand before the mirror. You will read that statement aloud 3 times. You will speak it with conviction. You will let your voice carry the weight of law. And you will look into your own eyes and make the commitment. Tomorrow morning, you begin the ritual. Tomorrow morning, you speak the 11 lines. Tomorrow morning, you start the 90-day cycle. No delays, no excuses, no waiting for better conditions. Tomorrow. And when you wake, when your eyes open, before you reach for your phone, before you speak to another human, before you allow the world to set the tone, you will stand before the mirror, and you will begin. The final image I leave you with is this. It is dawn. The house is still. The world has not yet stirred. You stand before the mirror, your hand resting on the cool glass, your eyes locked on your own reflection. The man looking back at you is tired. He carries the weight of old failures, old doubts, old identities. But as you speak the first line, something shifts. Your voice, quiet at first, begins to steady. Your shoulders, slumped from years of waiting, begin to rise. And by the 3rd line, by the 5th, by the 11th, the man in the mirror is different. His eyes are clear. His jaw is set. His presence is undeniable. He is no longer the man who waits. He is the man who acts. He is no longer the man who doubts. He is the man who knows. He is no longer the man who hopes. He is the man who commands. And when you step away from the mirror, when you walk into the day, you carry him with you, not as a fantasy, not as a wish, but as identity, as law, as truth. This is your beginning. This is your freedom. This is your assignment. Go now. Write your aim. Speak your oath. Mark the calendar. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, rise with it, not as the man you were, but as the man you have decided to become. The chosen do not wait. They act. And you, from this moment forward, are one of the chosen.